As you would expect, I've given considerable thought as to how I can best add value here today. And my ability to add value is linked to just one thing, as it would be for any speech I give anywhere in the world I happen to be. And that link to adding value is my ability to talk about issues that are relevant, and clearly relevant to all of your businesses. But relevant as well to something else, which I think is even more important. And that is relevant to each and every one of you as an individual. And so please, when you consider the issues that I'm going to talk about today, don't just consider how they're going to affect your company, because I want you to consider how they're going to affect you. And I promise you they will. And I'll be dead honest with you. I take this deeply personal approach in every speech in the world I happen to give. And I do it for one reason. And that is my clear understanding that the merit of any speech can and should be judged on one thing only. And that is whether most of you will walk away from this speech with one or two ideas that you actually will contemplate further in the weeks ahead and maybe even act upon. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to talk about many different issues here this morning, and then it is up to you to choose one or two that you think are most relevant, and then to decide what are you going to do about them. Because that, at the end of the day, is what's most important about you choosing to come to this event. So, with that as a bit of a platform, let me start with some science. And Charles Darwin, who said that the species that survived were not the most intelligent. They were, in fact, the most adaptable to change. And linked to this slide, ladies and gentlemen, I think there are three questions that need to be asked throughout perhaps your entire career. Number one, how adaptable is my company, and what am I doing to influence that? Number two, how adaptable are the people who work with me and for me, and what am I doing to influence them? And number three, and most important, how adaptable am I as an individual, and how honest am I being with myself about that? And the reason those questions are so important is this. And this, ladies and gentlemen, I believe is the single most important commercial reality for every single one of you in this room. Terminal for your company, for you, your career, and therefore for your quality of life. And you know, I think it makes no difference at all, none, what your title might be. Your role and your objective is to prevent that from happening. And there's a specific reason why. And as you look at this slide, let me ask you a question, and I do want you to participate here. Raise your hand if you run a monopoly business. 3. Well, that's interesting. And the majority of you, of course, do not. And so consider this slide. I want you to think, take 5, 6, or 7 seconds. Who's your biggest competitor? Both in the running of your business, but also in the maintenance of your own career. Now, that person might be seated next to you, so you probably don't want to discuss that. Who's your biggest competitor? Well, I don't mean to be glib or rude ever to any audience, but I'm going to suggest that you are all wrong, and that, in fact, your biggest competitor is your own view of the future and how expansive or restricted it is. Ladies and gentlemen, perhaps that's why you've come along today, just to get a glimpse into some of the issues that you think are going to affect your business and your career. I mean, sometimes I'm introduced as a business futurist, which I always think is slightly over the top, because all I do is talk about trends already underway and then try to predict which ones are going to have the greatest impact, both on your business and, of course, as I said, as individuals, on your own career. And something about the future I've learned. I've been in business for 30 years. I'm 53 years old. I spent 20 years in corporate life, including several as a director of a global PLC, and the last 10 years doing nearly 400 speeches all over the world. And it may be one of the most important lessons I've ever learned. I wonder if you've learned this as well about the future. Perhaps you have. Hope as a strategy is like buying lottery tickets to ensure your own financial well-being. It's a bit of a rush, but it's also a fool's game. in addition to hope, in addition to positive thinking, clearly you need some plans. In addition to hope, clearly you need some processes. And in addition to hope and positive thinking, more than anything else, you probably need this. Now, Mandela is the most respected man on the planet, perhaps, with good reason. And Mandela said that the most elusive and therefore most desired quality of leadership is vision. And he's right. A vision of the issues and trends that are going to affect your business. A vision of the kind of planning that's necessary to deal with those trends. And then the courage to take some action, ladies and gentlemen. Because can I just state from the outset, having a vision alone is not enough unless you and your colleagues together have courage to take some action to move the business forward. Now, in doing these nearly 400 speeches in the last 10 years, on every continent, I've met many remarkable people, many. And I've had a chance to meet Mandela on a couple of occasions. And in fact, this quote comes from his autobiography called The Long Walk to Freedom. It's a book I highly recommend, a copy of which he gave me in Cape Town 2 years ago. But I'm not here to talk about politics. I'm here to talk about commercial realities. And it's my belief that the single most important vision in the running of any business today is this. Nothing will determine the fate of your company or your career more so than how you respond to this. And can I just state, this is not the same conversation as we would have had 10, 5, or 2 years ago. These are not the same series of issues related to this as we would have discussed 10, 5, or 2 years ago. The commercial realities are new. The conversation is different. And the issues and how you respond to them will affect how successful you are forever.